continuing to move through the Old Testament in the scriptures, and we've come to the time in the story when the people of Israel and Judah are in exile. They've been removed from their homes, and now they're living as strangers in a strange land. And this is the time that a lot of the books of the prophets that are at the end of the Old Testament fall into place. So this is when they were written. And today's reading is from Habakkuk, chapters 1, 2, and 3, selected verses. So listen to this reading now from Habakkuk, and listen to what God is saying to you today through these words. The oracle that the prophet Habakkuk saw. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law becomes slack, and justice never prevails. The wicked surround the righteous, therefore judgment comes forth perverted. Look at the nations and see, be astonished, be astounded, for a work is being done in your days that you would not believe if you were told. For I am rousing the Chaldeans, that fierce and impetuous nation, who march through the breadth of the earth to seize dwellings not their own. Dread and fearsome are they. Their justice and dignity proceed from themselves. I will stand at my watchpost and station myself on the rampart. I will keep watch to see what he will say to me and what he will answer concerning my complaint. Then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end and does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Look at the proud. Their spirit is not right in them, but the righteous live by their faithfulness. Though the fig tree does not blossom and no fruit is on the vines, though the produce of the olive fails and the fields yield no food, though the flock is cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will exult in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and makes me tread upon the heights. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Will the children come forward? It's been a busy week for a lot of us with family gatherings and decorating and eating, lots of eating. And we're moving now from a season of Thanksgiving to the season of Advent. And I've always loved the tradition of lighting the Advent wreath. The candles, one a week, adding to the brightness of the room and adding to the concepts that we understand are associated with Advent. We used to have Advent wreaths at our house each year, and on Sunday dinners, I think it was, we would light a candle of the Advent wreath, whatever week it was. One year, when I was about 12 years old, we had an Advent wreath. I think I was about 12, and it laid flat on our big dining room table, and the dining room table was made of glass with like a frame around it. And that was the year that we also hosted the church choir Christmas party at our house. And we had those candles lit on the wreath, and there was food everywhere and music playing, and 20 or 30 choir members and their spouses all drinking Christmas drinks, mulled wine, I don't know what we would have had, wassail, something Christmassy and something that choir people liked. And it was really pretty chaotic. I was a 12-year-old, so I mostly stayed in my room. And I was in my room when all of a sudden there was this huge crash, like you could hear it all over the place, from the dining room. And we all ran in to see what the crash was, and it was that those Advent candles had burned all the way down, caught the wreath on fire. Am I remembering this right? Caught the wreath on fire and broken the glass of the table and fell on the floor and then caught the carpet on fire. Well, so you got a bunch of mulled wine drinking choir members running around, and there's food, and there's, it's just complete chaos. And it wasn't a big fire, it was a little fire. It was a huge mess, but everybody had their own ideas about how to put this fire out. So somebody ran in and got salt. You put a fire out with salt, and so somebody went and got a salt shaker, took the lid off, sprinkled the salt on it. I'm like, I don't think that's really going to do it. And somebody else went and got a glass of water and poured the water on it. Finally, I'm pretty sure it was Cass Joves went he was an elder and a choir member. He had his cowboy boots on. He just went and stomped on it. It was out. It was a tiny fire, but it was a mess. And this became known in our house as the Great Choir Party Disaster, and we didn't have any Advent wreaths at our house after that. I still like them, though. It's a tradition that at a lot of churches that each candle has a symbolic meaning. The ones we use here are hope this week, and then it'll be peace and joy and love. So today we lit the candle of hope. And in a way, it seems to me that hope is maybe the most important theme, the most important concept to understand during Advent. It's sort of the theme of the entire season, that we hope for something to come. It's a season of waiting, but not just waiting for something unknown. We know what's going to happen. It's waiting with anticipation of something good, waiting with anticipation. And hope is ultimately what draws us here and what keeps us going. Hope is what Christianity is all about. We hope for a better future. We hope for God's fulfillment of his kingdom. Now, the scripture that I read, Habakkuk, may seem like an unusual place to start in the first Sunday of Advent, but its message of waiting with hope in the midst of despair offers a powerful word to us, not only during the Advent season, but for the world that we live in today. Habakkuk cries out, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not listen? How long will I cry to you violence, and you will not save us? How long, O Lord?" Most of you know that I'm a person who lives with chronic depression, and these words are poignant to me. How long, O Lord? Maybe you've been through it too, times when you wonder how long the pain will continue, how long your grief will last, how much longer you can cry out for relief. And maybe you've wondered why it seems like it will never come. Maybe it's some refuge to know that the scriptures echo these feelings. Over a dozen psalms and other prophets use these words. How long, O Lord, how long do we have to wait? Even the writers of the Bible had trouble imagining the end of the misery, and so they call God to account. What's the wait for? Come on, do you see what's happening here? Habakkuk says the law had become slack. And this word slack in the Bible is interesting. It means paralyzed, it means incapable, it means unable to do anything. If you think about those big floppy air guys in front of the cell phone store, these wave around, the air blows through the tube and the tube stands up, and then it falls down again, and then it gets up again, and then it falls. This is what justice was to Habakkuk. This is what justice was doing. It was up and down and all over the place. It was slack. It was incapable of doing what it was supposed to be doing. Nothing was solid, nothing was consistent, and no one knew what to expect next. How long, O Lord? And God replies, and God says, write this down. Wait, because the good is on its way. Wait and remember and hope. Remember who I am. Remember my mighty acts. Remember who you are to me. And in your remembering, hold on to hope. I will bring you home. It can be a challenge when we look at the state of our world, the wars and oppression that seem unending around the world. the injustices that so many of God's children face each and every day, the personal struggles in our hearts and minds, and the social, societal struggles in the streets. God says, write this down, wait. The story's not over. I'm bringing you home. The closing verses of the book of Habakkuk offer a profound declaration of hope, even as they describe Judah's state of agony. Everywhere the prophet looks are signs of emptiness and hunger, poverty, weakness. No blossom on the fig tree, no fruit on the vine, no food in the fields, no animal in the stalls. He sees misery around him, but then that next word after this description is yet. And this is such an important word. Everything is bad. There's no food. There's no props. And yet, he says, the prophet will rejoice in the Lord, even in the midst of all that. The prophet himself is not empty, but full of strength from God, full of joy, full of hope, full of understanding of who God is. This is relentless hope. This is gritty hope, looking for a vision of God's might and power in a weary world, a vision that will arrive just on time. Some of you, no doubt, have heard the classic poem by Emily Dickinson, "Hope is the thing with feathers." We all read that in middle school or something. I don't know, right? Yeah. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. It's lovely. Lovely little image. Hope fluttering around. Really nice. And that's a nice version of hope. But I don't think that's the kind of hope that Habakkuk is talking about. I think this hope has grit. So I read another poem recently, written more currently, and the title of the poem is "Hope is Not a Bird, Emily, It's a Sewer Rat." Hope is not a thing with feathers that comes home to roost when you need it most. Hope is an ugly thing with teeth and claws and patchy fur that seems seen some trouble. It's what thrives in the discards and survives in the ugliest parts of our world, able to find a way to go on when nothing else can even find a way in. Hope is a gritty, nasty little carrier of such diseases as optimism, persistence, perseverance, and joy. Waiting and hoping aren't always easy things, but when we're in the midst of these things in the world, they can often seem lost. But the good news is this: we're not in it alone. We come together, we read scriptures, we remember who God is and what God has done and is doing for us even now. And we are strengthened to wait and to hope for one day more. We know the story that even in the midst of our sin, our captivity, our complicity in evil, our slack obedience, even in the midst of that, God keeps fighting to bring us home. This is our hope, that while we were sinners, Christ died for us. It's tough, it's grimy, it's unsanitary hope that doesn't always come easy. One writer said, "For as long as there is a compassionate Father, there will be a home, a table, and a feast." This was Israel's great consolation. Exile was the middle act of the drama, but it was not the final scene. Friends, go from here in hope, knowing that even in the midst of our suffering, God has not forgotten us, and God is bringing us home. Amen.